district director of Toastmasters. Could you come and speak? Could you come and help us set up a Toastmasters club in our school? And I thought it was a teacher who was reaching out, and I was like, yeah, sure. And I thought it was a university or something like that. And so they said, please prepare a talk for us and then come and deliver it. When I turned up there, it turned out it was a student and it was a high school for that matter. And I had this speech I'd written about talking with jokes about Donald Trump and stuff like that. And as I was waiting to be introduced, I realized that speech is never going to work with that audience. There were like 100 uh, teenagers who are in that in that hall. And from that experience, what I got out of it was that I started thinking about my speeches and thinking about, is this an interesting speech? You know, sometimes we usually write it, we assume these are adults, they're just going to take whatever I serve up to them. But when you're serving to children, you need to think about the kind of food that you are making for them. And that has made a huge difference to me when it comes to delivering my speeches, where these days I'm completely concerned and consumed with making sure that my speech is interesting, it is relatable, it has very, very simple ideas. And when I'm delivering it in Toastmasters clubs, and I've found it is more enjoyable for me to deliver speeches that are like that. And that is my hope for you as you consider taking on the youth leadership program. I hope it's going to transform your own public speaking and leadership journey so that you can go back to the first principles, back to the basics, and find that public speaking is a great joy. Being a leader is a great joy, and you get that out of interacting with younger people. And the goal for this evening is for us, first of all, to learn what is the youth leadership program, first of all, and then how does the program look like? How are you going to go about implementing it? And finally, we are going to talk about how to make sure that when you actually go through with this program, it is a success. You achieve the things that you hope to achieve by the end of the program. And so, but hopefully, by the end, after 1 hour, we are going to have achieved all of these three things. So the first question is, what is the youth leadership program? First of all, stepping back a bit for those of us who are joining us and are still on don't haven't started off on pursuing the DTM or to refamiliarize ourselves with the DTM journey. So there is the first component. There are five components to that journey. The first one is your personal development, and you grow yourself as a public speaker and as a leader by going through our curriculum in Toastmasters and completing two full parts. The next component of your DTM journey is going to be the leadership experience. And here you get some leadership experience by serving your club for 1 year and then serving the district for 1 year in specific roles. That is area director or the elected roles or the appointed roles, except for the logistic manager. Then another component is district support. This is where you either serve as a mentor, a club mentor for a new club, that is for 6 months, or you serve as a club coach where you're given a coach that needs a club that needs a coach, and you coach it until it becomes distinguished. That is a third component. The fourth component, which is the community outreach, this is where you reach out of Toastmasters by becoming a sponsor for a new club, where you go into a different community or an organization and start a new club, or you go to a school or another a youth focused organization and conduct the youth leadership program, or you go to an organization or even in your own club for guests who tend to visit your club and conduct the speech craft program. The final component is the DTM project, which is a project of your own making that you use to demonstrate your skills and to serve an organization. So the youth leadership program fits into that community outreach aspect of the DTM journey. Basically, the youth leadership program is simply a program that is targeted at the youth. These are people who can't join a typical Toastmasters club. They are below 18 years of age, and hopefully they are at least 14 years old. So you find that they're pretty much teenagers, about high school age. And what it is that it is a workshop. So it's not like you're setting up a club. Rather, you are going to conduct a workshop over about eight sessions, and those eight sessions are going to be 1 to 2 hours. And during those eight sessions, you're going to help them deliver speeches, you're going to help them learn about leadership. It is run, even though it's not a Toastmasters club, it is run in the same way that we run our Toastmasters meetings. So there's an opening, there's speeches, the impromptu speeches. There's also the reports, those supporting roles that you have in a typical Toastmasters meeting. Finally, Toastmasters says that you shouldn't have more than 25 participants in our youth leadership program, and the sweet spot based on what different people who have run this program is about 15 participants. So when you have about 15 participants, that is where you feel most comfortable, but you shouldn't go above 25 participants. And finally, the youth leadership program is only led by Toastmasters and with the oversight of a Toastmasters club. And what does this mean? It means that you need to get approval from your club. It needs to be sort of sponsored, not where they provide the funds, but they need to support it. They need to bless your efforts as someone pursuing a DTM or someone who is trying to implement this program. So you need to get approval from the club exco for you to run a youth leadership program. There are a lot of benefits. First of all, there is that benefit that I mentioned about the joy that I got out of my public speaking and leadership, and going back to the basics of public speaking. But first of all, you learn by uh, implementing a project that is outside Toastmasters, where you approach a school or you approach a different organization and persuade them to let you run this thing, put it together, run the whole event. So it's a great practice for you to demonstrate your leadership and to exercise it. In addition to that, you develop your coaching and mentorship skills and facilitation skills, because as we are going to learn as we go along, you're dealing with it's going to be a short program, and you need to mentor the students in that period of time to deliver a number of speech. And so you're going to be stretched as a mentor and as a coach and as a facilitator in terms of helping them run the program. So thinking about helping teenagers learn how to conduct an evaluation, that does take some that does take some facilitation skills. It is also going to deepen your own public speaking skills, because when you teach, for example, vocal variety to the youth, when you give vocal variety feedback at a club where you say you need to improve your vocal variety, you can get away with not going into detail. But when you're dealing with teenagers, you need to understand what exactly vocal variety looks like, how you go about actually developing a vocal variety, and how you actually put it in your speech. So going through that process of digesting that information and helping young people learn actually how to do it, you're going to help yourself actually develop those skills and hone those skills in yourself. And finally, it's an excellent PR strategy for your club in terms of you can take photos, videos, share it in your community about what your club is doing for the community as a social responsibility. And so it becomes a way of you attracting people to your club. So there are so many benefits for you to pursue this. Something else that I did not put in this slide that is a benefit, I actually believe is a benefit, is that if you have access to a school or a group of young people who you can take through this program, it's going to be faster for you to do this than to try and sponsor a club. Sometimes sponsoring a club, I remember when I sponsored a club for my DTM credit, it took us 2 years for the club to be chartered. And during that time, we had to keep pushing the club, keep supporting the club. But with a youth leadership program, if you pursue this, you're going to be done with it in about a month or 2 months. And so it's more in your control in terms of if you would like to complete your DTM project. So if you have access to a school or if you have access to a young group of people, and if by the end of this training you find that this is for you, then this would be something that you could pursue for your DTM credit. There are two choices that you have when you run a youth leadership program. It could be either student-led, where you have a group of four student leaders, a president who does the job of a typical VPE, and a vice president who assists the president, then a secretary who is going to be keeping track of the progress of everyone, who is going to be distributing the agendas, preparing them, and the evaluation material and everything that everybody needs. You also have a sergeant at arms who keeps the meeting logistic. So you could have a setup where it is student led. And this will be ideal if you hope after the workshop that this thing is going to continue and eventually they might become a Gavel club or a full-blown Toastmasters club in future. On the other hand, you could have a coordinator-led approach to the youth leadership program where you as the coordinator and maybe your assistant who is a Toastmaster do most of the work. So all of these things in terms of encouraging people, tracking progress, meeting logistics, all those items, you take up that responsibility and you actually do most of the leading, and you let the students mostly do the meeting roles and also focus on developing their own public speaking skills. So those are the two approaches that you can use, and you need to make a decision on that at the very beginning so that it runs smoothly, and that is basically based on the ages of the people that you're dealing with. The older, the more likely it is for you to go with the student-led one. And if you want it to continue, then the student-led one is also ideal. But if it is just a workshop for a brief period of time, younger students, then a coordinator-led approach might work. So, what does the program look like, the youth leadership program? Before we go into that, I would like to ask us a question. So, something for us to just think about for a moment. What difference do you think how different will it be between, so you've been a leader, you've led adult Toastmasters in a Toastmasters club as a mentor or even as a club officer. What is the difference between leading adults and leading the younger participants in a youth leadership program? What do you imagine would be the difference between these two kind of situations? Anybody? Please feel free to unmute yourself or put it in the chat. What differences do you think will be between leading adults in a Toastmasters club and leading younger people? So we said it's the same meeting setup as a Toastmaster. They are delivering speeches. What differences do you anticipate?
I think for me, this is Joyce Sachan. For
Right,
me, would be understanding the language.
right,
They, if they have some slangs that they use,
right, right,
then you try as much as possible to use those slangs so that they relate with what you're talking about. They relate to what they're talking about.
right. Absolutely. Making a language accessible so that you're not using Toastmasters Django. You're actually using a language that they can connect with. Anybody else?
Yeah.
Paul,
Uh,
Mwanga,
yes.
what do you think will be the differences?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah, my name is Eric Abuga from Malindi Toastmasters Club.
Right.
Yeah, another difference will be the malleability because I believe the younger guys will
Mm,
have a better uptake of
right,
instruction, perhaps
right,
more than the older generation.
right. They are likely to be more open to being led, to being taught than the older generation. Absolutely. And something else to keep in mind is that while leading adults, most of them are self-driven. They're able to set their own goals. They're able to determine their own progress, how fast they want to proceed. However, when you're dealing with a younger audience, you need to be intentional about setting the expectations that you have for them. So, for example, when you have someone joining your Toastmasters club right now, most clubs usually don't go through that process of determining the goals of the member, determining or helping them form a plan of how many speeches they are going to be delivering every month, how many roles, how often they're going to be attending. However, when that you can get away with that when dealing with adults, but when dealing with younger participants, you need to be very clear about the expectations that you have for those eight sessions. So, if, for example, if it's 2 months, and so you need to be very clear in your mind and in the minds of the people that are involved in that program and also the participants, what is expected of them. And something that you could consider adopting is there are these expectations that you could consider adopting, where after those, by the end of all those 8 sessions, everybody will have delivered at least 2 speeches, taken one major role. A major role is a Toastmaster of the day, table topics master, or a quiz master. Quiz master is like the hack master in Kenya or the listening post in Ethiopia. And then taken 2 minor roles, grammarian, R counter, and or timer. They need to have been a speech evaluator twice, and they need to have attended their sessions regularly. And by having these expectations clearly in your mind right from the beginning, you're going to be able to determine how many speeches you need at each session for them to be able to accomplish this, and also like in the end, how many sessions do you really need for them to be able to achieve the public speaking goals that they have? And so this will be the first thing that you need to keep in mind. What expectations do you have for the participants? And this could be this is a suggestion that you could take as a direction that you could go in terms of the expectations that you set. And so in addition to that, like we talked, like we mentioned earlier, you need to use language that is accessible to the students or the younger people that you are interacting with. You need to dumb down the way that you explain the different roles so that they can quickly understand, quickly get a grasp of exactly what they are trying to do, trying to accomplish with each of the role. And maybe we could spend a very brief moment to go over the roles that are needed for a youth leadership program and how you, as a coordinator, would explain to the participants what those roles are about. And maybe we could get volunteers from the audience. How would you explain the role of a Toastmaster in just 3 sentences to someone who is in high school? So I'm suggesting you say what you are doing, what resources are you going to be using while accomplishing that thing, and why is that part of the meeting? So anybody who would like to challenge themselves to dumb down the definition of a Toastmaster of the day so that you can explain it to a younger audience.
Maybe like the
Or
MC
you
of the
could
day.
Yes, Atul.
Thank you, Didi. Maybe I can just say it's like the MC, Master of Ceremonies. So it's
Uh-huh.
just a brief role of a Master of Ceremonies, what he does or she does. Same way is the
Mhm.
Toastmaster of the day who leads the
Right.
meeting.
Right. So that is what you're doing. You're leading the meeting and you're comparing it to the MC of the day. What resource are you going to be using to accomplish that?
Like resources, like kind of.
Yeah. What resource is a TMOD going to be using? Does a TMOD use to actually run the meeting?
Okay. So basically, a theme, whichever is the theme, those so they prepare some content regarding the theme and the agenda,
Right.
so they know who are the role
Right.
takers and they get familiar with
Yeah.
the role takers, and then telling them at what time and watching the timer so that they can be aligned with the time and as well as their
Right.
role and the
Right.
agenda,
Right.
and basically focusing on
Right.
the agenda. Yeah.
Right. So you're having your role is as the MC, you're introducing people, you're using the agenda to actually know when to introduce them and the names of the people that you're introducing them. And then why do we have the role of the Toastmaster of the day in a Toastmasters meeting? Why is it important? Why is it important for you to do it so well? Is to make sure that people are having fun and the meeting runs smoothly. So in 3 sentences, you are done explaining and in a very, very simple manner. Would anybody like to try the other roles that are there? Anyone who would like to challenge themselves?
I'll go next. This is Kevin Rubia,
Yes, Kevin.
Table Topics Master. Yours
Mhm.
as the Topics Master is to come up with short, simple questions that can help participants think on their feet.
Mhm.
This is important because when you get a job, for example, you need to answer interview questions and you'll need to think on your feet. So this helps you prepare for such occasions.
Yeah, absolutely. What resource are you using to do that?
It's good to have a script.
Right.
So one, you can base your questions on the theme. Let's say it is April Fools. So you can
Mhm.
come up with questions on that and then read them out during the meeting.
Yeah, absolutely. So your role is to help, thank you so much, Dr. Kevin. Your role is to help people learn how to think on their feet, and you do that by using a list of questions that you direct at the participants. And the reason for that is thinking of your feet is an important aspect of public speaking, and it's a skill that you can apply outside Toastmasters. And so that's the same kind of thinking that we go through with the timer role, the evaluator role, the grammarian, the quiz master, and the accounter, so that you learn how to break those roles down to their first principles and explain them in a way that a younger audience, someone who has never been in Toastmasters, is going to be able to understand them. And after a very quick conversation with them, they're actually able to do that with just with minimum follow up in terms of coaching. And so think about the rest of these. Think about the rest of these roles and how you could explain them in just 3 sentences to a younger adult, and that is going to help you become successfully when you implement this program, so that you do not confuse the participants in your program. So a typical agenda in a youth leadership program looks like this, and we're going to go through it briefly. Like we said, it looks like a Toastmasters meeting. And so you start off with the president of the facilitator welcoming everybody, going through what we are covering in the agenda, and then introducing the Toastmaster of the day. The Toastmaster of the day picks up from there and then introduces the participants. They do it in a very, very simple way where they simply give the name of the person who is taking, give the name of the person, state their role, and then ask them an introduction question. So the introduction questions are such as asks the grammarian for the word of the day, asks the timer for the description of their role, ask the accountant to give the description of your role, and ask the quiz master to give the descriptions of your role. So what you're doing is making it as simple as possible so that it is not complicated at all and anybody can do it the first time around. Then the Toastmaster of the day introduces the table topics master by just stating their name. Well, Toastmaster of the day, the next thing after the table topics segment is the Toastmaster of the day introduces the guest speaker, and this is a Toastmaster who is going to be conducting an education session during that meeting. The education session is 5 to 7 minutes, and we are going to cover the kind of topics that you can consider having in your youth leadership program over those 8 sessions that you're going to have. Then, after that education session, the facilitator, you who is running this thing, the coordinator, comes in to make any announcements, remind the participants of the program expectations, the ones that we talked about. This is what we are all trying to achieve by the end of these 8 weeks. And then you discuss the next week agenda and the roles. So who are taking up different roles during the next meeting and who is going to be speaking and all that. Then you're going to have a break, 5 to 10 minutes. Then follows the prepared speeches. The prepared speeches are 4 to 5 minutes, so they're shorter than a typical Toastmasters speech. And so you could have, we could talk about the ideal number of speeches that you should have for a group of 15 to 25 students. But after every speaker speaks, then you have their evaluation immediately. So you don't have all the speakers delivering their speeches and then the evaluations following after. And the reason for that is that you need to be done with that particular speech while those comments are fresh in the minds of the participants. And the evaluation is very, very simple, just about 1 minute. Then the Toastmaster of the day calls for the reports. Each of them is given 1 minute, and then the Toastmaster of the day hands back to the president. The meeting is adjourned. Very simple, very, very like a Toastmasters meeting, except for that evaluations coming immediately after each of the speeches, and also the facilitator coming in right in the middle of the session to plan for the next week's agenda. Over that 8 week period, this is what you could consider planning out the sessions like. And this is bearing in mind you're dealing with 15 to 25 students and you have about 2 hours. So if you have less time, an hour, then you would change how you approach this. And also if you have a different number of participants, then you would adjust this. So during the first week, what you're going to be focused on is helping them learn how to write a speech, giving them ideas for a speech, and then introducing them to what table topics looks like. During that meeting, you're going to be doing just general introductions of everybody, sharing the materials, sharing expectations. And if it is going to be a student-led workshop, then you're going to have elections for those 4 roles that we talked about earlier. During the second week is when you start talking, introducing them to the concept of evaluations and also introduce the grammarian role. At that first meeting, you will have 5 group speeches, and we're going to talk about what I mean by group speeches and group evaluations of those speeches. Then you're going to have Toastmasters, table topics masters who are going to ask 2 of them who are going to ask 5 questions each for a total of 10 table topics questions. Then the third week, the education session that you're going to have on that day is the vocal variety. Then you add the quiz master minor role. This, like I said, this is the hack master or the listening post. And then you start to have individual speeches, individual evaluations, and continue with the table topics. Fourth week, you introduce gestures and the R counter role. Sorry for that typo. During the fourth week, you introduce the R counter role, and the education session that you have is gestures. Week 5, effective listening. Week 6, visual aids. Week 7, planning an event. And then week 8, Toastmasters skills in the world. And during that final meeting of week 8, you have some kind of showcase where you've invited the parents. If it is at a school, you've invited the teachers, you have awards, you have like a graduation ceremony for your program. Again, these are suggested ways that you can approach if you have 15 to 25 students. these are suggested education sessions that you can use, and then introducing the roles in bits so that you do not overwhelm them during that first week by talking too much, giving them too much information. So that, and then something else to keep in mind is that once you have introduced a role, you never do it again. For example, once you've introduced the grammarian role, you let the students take it from there, and your job is to facilitate them, help them actually executing those roles. Remember what we talked about, dumbing down those the descriptions of the roles so that it is easy for them to grasp, so that in a very, very brief conversation, you can tell them, this is what you're supposed to do, this is what you're going to be using, and this is why it is very important to us as a group. Then having that tracker of the expectations that you have for the students. So how many speeches have you delivered? Are you on track to deliver the 2 speeches that we've set out for you? Have you taken a major role? Have you responded to 2 or more table topics questions, and etc., etc.? How are you going to plan this? Facilitate, trust the participants to grow into those roles. You're going to be surprised. Like we said, younger students are quite open to learning, and they can surprise you in terms of what they are able to do in a short period of time. So facilitate and trust the participants. Get the participants to track their own progress towards the expectations that you have. So each of them maybe has like a report, a printout where they mark out their progress. But in addition to that, track the progress yourself as the facilitator for that program. Then use a program planning sheet. Those spreadsheets that we tend to have in a Toastmasters meeting, where you lay out all those 8 weeks, you lay out all the roles and how many volunteers you need from Toastmasters. And so planning ahead is going to help you be successful at conducting this program. And so up to that point, maybe we could take a pause, and if there are any questions so far, maybe we could hear them at this point in time.
Hi, Didi Robert.
Yes.
So thank you for the session. I have some few doubts. So how do you register
Right.
yourself for the youth leadership program? And should we buy any
Right.
material from Toastmaster International? And what is the initial process for a member to register for youth leadership program? Thank you, and back to you.
Right. Thank you so much. It's different from the Speechcraft. The Speechcraft, there's a specific platform on the Toastmasters site where you actually buy the program, and you buy it for $50. Last time I checked, for 5 participants. But the Youth Leadership Program, you buy the material from the Toastmasters store, you buy workbooks. Certificates of completion. The club is the one that is giving the oversight, and so the vice president education of the club are the ones who are going to be signing off in your form when you submit it to Toastmasters International, when you're claiming that credit.
Thank you.
Does that make sense? Fantastic.
Yes.
Any other questions so far?
Another one. So I was
Yeah.
attending I was attending one of the guidance session for one of the youth leadership program in India.
Right.
So I saw that there were 90 students, there were 90 students in the classroom, and I was just attending virtually to give them a
Right.
motivational session. So
Right.
you mentioned that there should be 25 maximum participants. So is there any rule or restriction? Can I know what is the minimum and maximum, or is it just a good number? Thank you.
The 25 that I gave you is based on the Toastmasters policies, what is communicated through the Toastmasters website. I imagine if you have more coordinators, for example, if you have 4 coordinators, you will be able to have at least 90 students, each of the coordinators managing to handle that many students. And so, the guidance will be 25 students per coordinator who's running that program. And that is based on what Toastmasters International communicates.
Okay, so you mean that if you're having 100 students, then we can have 4 of them conducting the YLP, and each of them and all of them 4 can take the credit.
I'll imagine that will be the only way to do it because I, managing 100 students by yourself will be quite an impossible task. I don't know how any kind of teacher is able to manage that. But 25, based on Toastmasters headquarters policies, 25 would be the limit, the maximum that you have in your program when you're doing this. If it's the VP of the club that wants to pursue this program, do they still sign the form? Like, even if you're the VP of the club, I think it's the president who usually signs it for you when you're submitting that form. What you're talking about is when you're at that point of submitting the DTM. The DTM form to Toastmasters International. And so I think it's usually, if it's not the VPE, it's the president who does that signing of the form.
Okay. So what is the minimum number?
There's no minimum number.
There's no
Right.
minimum. So we can also do it with 5 students.
Yeah, I guess the 5 student will be enough.
Okay. Thank you, Robert.
Very good. Okay, let us proceed. Kevin Rubia.
Yes, there's a question in the chat that states who chooses the thematic topics for each meeting?
Again, the workbook has specific topics that are meant to be covered during that period. So what the students are going to be learning. So you could base your education program on those particular topics. But also, in addition to that, you as the one who is running the program, you do have that flexibility in terms of determining how to go about which topics you think are going to be of greatest benefit to the audience that you are dealing with. So there is those recommendations on what to cover during each of the week. But again, you as the one who's running the program would have that flexibility to do that. I think if the questions are not I'll take that final question and then proceed, Eric.
Okay. Thank you, DTM Robert. I have 2 questions. So the first one is, I'm not quite, so you've said there's sort of a structure for 8 weeks in terms of the topics that should be guided. What I'm not clear on is the session is meant to run like a meeting,
Right.
but when do you train on the topic? So you're talking about vocal variety. You know, traditionally, if I'm going to do a project on vocal variety, there's Basecamp, I'll read the material, I'll watch the videos, then I'll come and deliver a speech and they'll be evaluated on vocal variety. What I'm not understanding is you're running it like a meeting with people playing roles. So when do the young teenagers get to be taught about how to do vocal variety? Or is some prep work that happens behind the scene outside of the meeting? And the second question is, who caters for the budget? Any kind of workshop cost. So where is the money coming from?
You will be
participants
responsible.
paying.
Right. You will be responsible for coming up with those costs. And I guess if you're running it in the school, you will find a way of the school catering for those costs. But keeping in mind that you cannot profit from a Toastmasters program. So if there were people being charged for the program, it would be just to cover the cost of the program. Like we covered earlier, the education programs are actually delivered during the meeting, during this part where you have the guest speaker. So as you proceed over those weeks, you deliver those tip sessions one after another during those eight sessions. that you are going to have. So it happens concurrently while they're actually delivering the speeches. Then you actually also providing the education sessions. I'm going to come back to you, Joyce. Let us complete this training, and then we're going to have questions at the tail end. And while we're talking about the education sessions, what do you think you need to keep in mind as you are designing them, as you're putting together that presentation that you need to put, for example, talking about vocal variety, what do you need to put in mind as you are putting that presentation together for the younger participants, or as you get volunteers, how are you going to guide them in terms of how they need to structure their presentation? Anybody with any thoughts?
I think for me, the sessions should be short with
Right.
intervals to give them some breaks because
Right.
they have shorter attention spans.
Right. It can be a 20-minute session, so it needs to be short, 5 to 7 minutes maximum. Anybody else who has any ideas? Right. So first of all, you need to have at least 4 components in your presentation. So first of all, you need to give words, give specific ways of describing what you are talking about. So if you're talking about variety, give them the vocabulary to actually describe vocal variety so that you're not talking in terms of in general terms, so that they can use those same words when they are evaluating each each other. And so what things like showing emotions through your voice, those are words that you need to incorporate in your presentation so that they can then adapt those words in their feedback. Next, it needs an activity because you're dealing with a younger audience where you turn those concepts into an interactive exercise. So again, when you're talking about vocal variation, when you're having that education sessions, get them to actually demonstrate that vocal variations. So speaking louder, speaking quieter, speaking fast, speaking slower, so that it is actually memorable for them. Then give them an opportunity during that practice session to actually practice it. So saying their names with different pitches, saying their names with different intonations, so that you turn the learning into action immediately. And finally, having one clear takeaway so that they can have something to keep in their mind. So something like making sure that you are not speaking in a boring, monotonous manner. So whatever presentation that you're going to put together, make sure it has those three things. Delivering the vocabulary that they need. It needs to have an activity where you demonstrate what you're talking about. You need to give them an opportunity to practice it at that point in time. Then you need to boil down the lesson into one clear takeaway for them. Like we talked about earlier, you're trying to get 14 to 18-year-old participants to practice and write their speeches in less than 1 week, where you're saying you are going to be the speakers for next week. And if you have dealt with adults in a club, you'll find that that can be quite difficult for even adults to do. So, what strategies do you imagine would you adopt to help you? Get the young people to actually deliver to write, practice, and deliver a speech after about 1 week, based on your own experience as a Toastmaster? Is it even possible?
Yeah, use ChatGPT.
That is hilarious. A better strategy, please.
Maybe I think maybe just telling them to write short stories or something or
Right.
drafts, even if it's good or
Right.
bad, so that they can practice a small, maybe
Right.
a three-liner, five-liner, 10-liner, and then they can go to 200 words step by step with
Making
encouragement. And then I think
making
in that
mm,
way, as a coordinator, you can just give them that encouragement, the boost up, and wherever they're stuck, we can guide them and the story can be formed.
right. Making it very easy, very short, giving them a lot of support. I can see in the chat from Andrew, make the topics enjoyable and relatable. One strategy, thank you so much, Andrew. Definitely those work in terms of helping them figure out a topic that is going to be very easy for them. Because I remember taking part in a youth leadership program a couple of years back, and as I was talking to the to one of the people that I was mentoring, helping them with their speech, uh, she couldn't figure out exactly what she wanted to talk about until we narrowed down that one of her interests was I don't know what they're called. They're called Mandela something, where you are drawing repeated patterns all over a sheet of paper, and it seemed to be something that she was particularly interested in. And then so guiding that participant to talk about why she does that, how she developed that interest, what she gets out of accomplishing that activity. And so it becomes very easy for someone like that to write a speech within 1 week when they're talking about something that they're interested in. But a strategy that you could use, and like we talked about when we were going through the program, is that during the second week they're going to deliver a group speech. And what you could do as a facilitator is to break down a speech into like five components. So a speech has that introduction, which looks like the roof of the house, then the 3 points, which look like the pillars, and then the conclusion, which looks like a foundation. Break that down and give each of the participants a block, a Lego block, and they go out into a group together, and then they discuss the different components of the speech, where each of them comes up with one piece. So one person comes up, for example, still talking about for, talking about that Mandela drawing. One of them talks about what exactly, the first point could be what exactly it is. The second point could be how do you get good at it. The third point could be what are the benefits. So each of the students comes up with a single idea, then one of them comes up with an introduction, then someone else with the conclusion. So as a facilitator, what you will be explaining is what these different components are, and when they do it as a group, it gives them the confidence to later do it as individuals. And so the cycle will be 5 participants per group, 5 Lego pieces per group. Give each of them a very easy topic that they can talk about. Then explain that each of the members needs to produce that. And when they come back, they present it as a group, where one person presents the introduction, then someone else presents the first point, who came up with it, second point, third point, and then someone else comes up with the conclusion. So having that exercise during the second week, when you are helping them, first of all, learn the concept during the first week, then during the second week, helping them actually implement it and present that speech during the meeting is going to make it easier for them during subsequent meetings to put together their own speeches, because they've gone through that process of writing a speech together. I hope that makes sense. Then we talk about how you will go about helping the participants learn how to evaluate each other. And one of the ways that you could do it is by using 3 cards, where you give them a red card, a yellow card, and a green card. And on the red card is something they liked about the speech. The yellow card is something to improve, and the green card is the best quality of the person who was speaking. And all they need to do is just say state one thing, one sentence or two sentences maximum, because they just have 1 minute to deliver their evaluation. And so breaking it down and making it simple like this would make it easier for them to actually deliver those evaluations. Again, when they are delivering the group speeches, they're going to have group evaluations so that you distribute these cards to different people. After a group has delivered their speech, you ask who has the red card, and that red card person only states what they think they liked about the speech. Then the yellow card, something the group can improve, and then the green card, what was the best quality of the speech of the group that just presents. When you help them do this as a group, you'll find that later doing it as an individual becomes much easier for them. And so this is the activity that you're going to do during the first and second week that is going to help you make it easier during the subsequent weeks for the participants to deliver their speech. And remember, what you're doing is facilitating the students and what you're doing. So for example, if you ask someone, the person with the red card say something that the group could improve on, and they're likely to say, I don't know, I thought the speech was great. You as a facilitator need to have been listening to that group, and you could ask yourself, do you think this presenter was speaking with a low voice? Could you hear them clearly from the back of the room? If they say no, then you ask them, what would you suggest that they do in future? And they could say, you need to speak louder. And that is feedback that you have given to the participants. And that is feedback that you have facilitated the members, the participants to actually give. So thinking about when it comes to evaluation, not taking like not taking I don't know, or I do not know what to say, or I have nothing to say as the final answer, but helping them think through what they have just observed and helping them learn the language that they can use to evaluate people in future. And there are other participants who are going to be listening to that, and so that makes it easier. Remembering that you are a facilitator for the program, and you are, by trusting them, by helping them actually think through that, they're going to surprise you by the end of that program. So what is the youth leadership program? It is the community outreach part of your DTM project, and it is a program delivered to 14 to 18-year-olds over 8 weeks. And the program is, like we talked about, is divided over those 8 sessions, and you are covering certain education programs, and you have specific expectations of the students, specific outcomes that you would like for the students. Make in terms of success, make sure that you simplify everything, especially for yourself, so that you actually understand exactly what you are trying to communicate. Simplify the speech writing process, simplify the evaluation process, give them the tools that they need to actually implement those roles. Remember the way that you structure an education session: give them vocabulary, an activity, help them practice, and give them a very, very simple takeaway. And by the end of that program, you're going to be surprised at what the participants are going to be able to achieve, but also you're going to be surprised at how you yourself are going to, the kind of growth you are going to experience, because you are going to understand those concepts much better than you did at the beginning of that program. And that brings us to the end of my presentation. We could go back to the questions that we had earlier. Thank you. Thank you, Baron Mandala Art. I guess after all these years, I've really never learned what it was called. Joyce, you had a question. We could go back to that.
Thank you very much for the presentation and discussions. I have two questions.
Right.
One, Can this training be totally virtual or hybrid? Second, the last, can I, as the facilitator, reduce the time frame to say 4 weeks if I'm targeting a holiday, or 4 weeks when the students are available? Thank you.
Thank you so much. First of all, yeah, I have seen the program being delivered hybrid or even virtually. So that is absolutely possible. You can do that. In addition to that, it is possible to compress the program to a shorter period of time. But that means you need to meet more often. So, for example, if I think I don't know whether Kwanzaa to Toastmasters still does their youth leadership program during the holidays, and they used to compress it into I think about a month every weekend, and it just means that you're going to need to meet more often to cover the number of education programs that you need, and also to reach those expectations that you have for the students, so that by the end of that period they will have delivered that number of speeches. It could be longer because I've seen sessions that are more than 2 hours to allow that kind of compressed program. So it is possible to do it virtually. It is possible to compress it. It just means that you're going to need to meet more frequently and longer. Any other question?
Hi, DTM Robert, once again. So is
Right.
it should be of 8 weeks or 8 to 12 weeks? Any of the,
It should be 8 sessions. So the way that you distribute those sessions is up to you as the facilitator.
so it is a maximum of 8 sessions. You have to do 8
Yeah.
sessions. Or can
I
we
would say
increase it?
minimum.
Minimum.
Minimum, you can increase the number of sessions, but it has been designed for 8 sessions.
Thank you.
Right. All right, very good. I wish you all the best as you pursue your DTM, or for those of us who already have DTMs, as you pursue this amazing program and you put it into practice. Something that I've always believed Toastmasters needs to do more in terms of reaching out to the community, and we learn public speaking and leadership. And the best way that we can reach out to our communities is actually to have youth leadership programs where we reach out to the schools in our neighborhood, we reach out to the people that need it the most, and serve our community and give back to our community. So I wish you all the best. I hope many of us are going to actually follow through with this amazing program. Like Division Director Atul said, in India, I met a past a past district director who had taken up that responsibility, and they were reaching out to thousands of students in that country, thousands of people who could not get a formal education. They were helping them learn how to giving them leadership skills and public speaking skills, because these people could not access such opportunities on their own. And it's a great thing that you can do for yourself and for your community and for your club. Those of us who have additional questions, I think a number of those questions were covered in the in the session. You could message us or the TLI, and we're going to be happy to answer them. Thank you so much. Back to you, TLI Chair.
Thank you very much. Let's go ahead and appreciate immediate past District Director DTM Robert Karanja for the time and the information. That is very, very helpful. I have learned a lot. And I think the biggest thing for me is, even as you learn how to communicate to youth, if we communicated like that to adults, maybe we would understand certain concepts a lot better. So thank you very much, DTM Karanja. Okay. And I think that's it. Thank you for coming. Have a